one of my research projects, I partnered up with a doctor and an epidemiologist, and we developed a very short screening tool for doctors to detect abuse, and we called it the EASY, EASI. And after we developed that tool, I had been involved with the International Network for Elder Abuse, as well as the Canadian Network for Elder Abuse. And internationally, they were also looking at how to identify elder abuse, what tools to be used, and we got involved in an international project with the World Health Organization to look at our tool and to look at the questions on our tool, which was validated. This time it was a real research project, and to see if our screening tool could be used in different cultures and different languages. So we were part of a study with 8 other countries that used our tool to validate, give it face validity in terms of the content of the questions. And so it's a project that we did in 8 countries. And now our tool is in, I can't even remember how many languages, and it is being used all over the world. So it has had rayonnement, like really large, which is really interesting. And we still get calls about people, can they use our tool? How do they use their tool? Is there a training on the tool? So it has had an incredible impact. And in some countries, this tool was the first step for starting to address elder abuse in their countries. I mean, one of the research projects that I did with Marie Beaulieu was to look at the dynamics of elder abuse and the profile of the people who are in these situations. So that information helped us realize that there is a difference in the type of mistreatment done by a spouse versus a child versus an acquaintance. Okay, the severity and the frequencies, that there were patterns that were a little bit different. And then even your intervention strategies were a little bit different. So that this knowledge is helpful for practitioners, that if they're going in and they're asking questions, they know a little bit more what to look for if it's a couple versus if it's an older person who lives with an adult child, or versus somebody who is dependent on others for their help. So I think it really did help in the transfer of knowledge that way. Same thing with research that I did in the use of judicial recourse by social workers. You know, very often social workers will say we need other laws. Our laws aren't good enough. We're restrained. And so I did a research project in actually every single region of Quebec, every CLSC at the time in Quebec, and I looked at social workers' knowledge about the laws, application of the laws, but I did a whole also review of the laws that exist and that could be applied to elder abuse. And I discovered that we had many laws that could be applied in situations of elder abuse, but the majority of social workers had absolutely no clue what they were. Very confused about questions about confidentiality, very confused about the rights of the person versus protection. So the research helped identify these are laws that you can use. This is what you can apply in this situation. This is the type of consideration that you can take into account when you want to do an intervention, and this is how you can think of your choices of intervention. So I think that the research helped that, and all the research that I did, I always made sure that it was presented. Not written up as often as I would like to, because writing articles takes more time, but I have written the articles. But I have presented my findings almost everywhere, at many conferences on elder abuse. And in protocols, in how to approach elder abuse, I make sure that that knowledge is translated and put into practice. When I first started off, a big issue was about confidentiality. When I first started, the only people that were allowed to break confidentiality were those people who are witnesses to situations of child abuse. Then the law changed, and I don't know if it was my research or if it was all of the networking and work that we did and discussions that we made about what some of the barriers were, but the law did change. It's law, maybe not social policy. The law did change that confidentiality can be broken in any situation of high risk. In terms of social policy, I know that the work that I've done and Maria's done had a huge influence on the elder abuse action plan, on having an elder abuse action plan. We developed a Quebec network for elder abuse. It didn't last, but it was enough to put this issue on the map of Quebec, that everybody knew about it, so that elder abuse was no longer a subject that was in the closet. It was a subject that people talked about and were aware about. So our research helped break the silence.